Hey everyone, in this video I'll be showing you the best build for Beast in Divinity Original Sin 2 for Acts 1 and 2. Now Beast kind of fits like a scoundrel, but I think it's actually great to go with some warfare, scoundrel, necromancer, and a bit of arrow here to give him a lot of versatility in combat. And funny enough, a shield and a dagger actually work very well together, and it's quite a synergetic combination with this team here. Now, a big point of what we want to be using our scoundrel for is getting things like backlash and the rupture tendons, which are two very amazing moves. The reason that we like backlash is it gives you an attack that's one action point cost with a short cooldown that lets you jump to an enemy and get that free backstab off. What's great about that is then you're positioned to do another attack afterwards, with something like rupture tendons being really good, especially if you have another character on your team with things like chicken claw, which can make the target run around, take a ton of damage from that. And the better part about that is it doesn't even require you to break down their physical armor. And the best part about having warfare skills is once we have the physical armor down, we can then start crowd controlling targets by knocking them prone. And not just all this, but since we have a shield, we get access to things like bouncing shield, giving us some range. And with necromancy, we actually have a bit of sustain. So if our vitality goes low, we can always use things like mosquito swarm to give ourselves it back. And again, we also have things that are going to pierce through the enemy's shields if we need something like that. But yeah, we can do some pretty solid damage here. And if we need it, we got a lot of crowd control. With bouncing shield actually being pretty high damage, even at close range, sometimes we need to pick up the kill. You can just go from the adrenaline into that to be able to secure some pretty easy kills here. Now, this is mostly going to be a tanky damage style class. I gotta say, he looks really cool with the shield and the dagger there. But as far as our attributes go, since we're going to be using a finesse-based weapon, it's good to go with the scaling in that. So we're going to be putting points into our finesse stat there. I did try Constitution, but unfortunately, it's not as amazing in this game as some of the other setups are. And we got a decent bit of memory here with taking 6 points just to be able to prepare some extra spells, but finesse being our main skill here that we want to be investing in. And then for our ability scores. Now, we're able to get a high warfare here because this is going to give us the highest possible physical damage, which is what we want. This also scales our necromancer skills, which is nice, so it gives us a bit more sustain too. I also like to take at least 1 point into scoundrel. I have 3 from gear here, but we want 1 so that we get the pawn for a bit of extra movement speed, which I think is nice. We're not like the highest damage class in the game, but we provide a lot of extra value, and getting that movement speed actually scales off scoundrel because this will also give us further movement speed. I also like to have 2 points in air third because there's a lot of teleportation style skills which are really nice, giving us even more mobility and also some utility to buff up the team and help protect them. I have 4 points in necromancer from gear. I think that that's kind of ideal. 3 to 4 points of necromancer will give you more than enough to be able to sustain yourself. Now, I like to go with a single-handed weapon. Obviously, giving ourselves a shield in the offhand kind of works with that, but having a high amount of warfare is ideal. It's also good if you can get a couple points of huntsman. This gives us the tactical retreat, which is a really nice ability. We do have so much mobility, though. It's not like a major concern, especially if we have the pawn. We can get into position typically, but having an air thirds there for some extra support is nice. You could swap it out for Hydrosophus if you want to provide some extra healing support. And honestly, even with the scoundrel, it's sometimes good to go from that and then put points in the Hydrosophus for some healing, as we may not need the teleportation. And since for our talents, since we're getting into close melee range, I think the opportunist is really good because this will give you opportunity attacks. Just gives you a way to weaponize your defensive turn in combat. And as mentioned, the pawn is really nice here. That's why we took 1 point of scoundrel. Giving yourself 1 action point worth of free movement every turn is pretty nice, especially if we are going to be getting a position to set up our critical hits. Now, we have backlash, obviously being able to do that pretty easily, but it's nice to have a backup with the pawn. You can use the executioner, though, if you find that you're getting a lot of kills with this, but I do think that the other builds are a little bit better for that purpose. I also like What a Rush. Whenever you drop below 50% health, you get a max of 1 point of action back, which is great with the glass cannon, which will give you 7 action points per turn. You don't need What is a Rush. You can go with something like the comeback kid as well, because with the comeback kid, when you go down, you get resurrected with 20% health, which I think is kind of nice. We can also use things like the picture of health, which will give us an additional 3% vitality for our 14 points of warfare, which is pretty nice. There's some abilities with torture that could actually work decently here as well if you wanted to. I actually like the combination of What a Rush, which will give us that extra action point when using comeback kid so that we get a bit of extra life when we're at low health to give ourselves that extra action point maximum, which is really good. But I find that going with the pawn, picture of health, opportunist, and comeback kid is great just because we get some decent health for survivability's sake. And as far as our skills go, I think that having, again, battering ram is one that we want to have on pretty much every build. It requires 1 warfare. Knocking an enemy prone is really nice, and it gives us mobility. Battle Stomp, same idea. We can actually critically hit with this, so it's good ability to be able to knock enemies prone. Bouncing Shield is honestly very high offense, actually. You can see there, it actually is pretty solid, upwards of 189 physical damage when this says upwards of 40. And what's even better about this is the shield will bounce to another enemy that's in 5 meters range. So this is actually a good source of damage. We want to use it often because it has a very short cooldown. Adrenaline will allow us to pump out more damage. This is important because sometimes you just need to secure that kill. We also got backlash here, which gives us that teleportation to give ourselves 100% backlash chance or backstab chance, which is really great. I also like the Sawtooth Knife being able to pierce through any type of damage, and if they don't have any physical armor, we're able to apply bleed on the target. Rupture Tendons is a good ability. If the target's going to run around, pop this on them, and it can go through any type of armor, which I think is amazing. Now, there's some necromancer spells that I think work really well in this setup. I like Living on the Edge. For 2 turns, your target creature's vitality cannot be reduced below 1. So if you're really low in health, you can use this to become immortal. With the comeback hit, it's kind of crazy because if you're getting hit a lot, you're just never going down. This works very well with Shackles of Pain because, funny enough, you can apply this onto yourself and Shackles of Pain on another target. That uses up your 4 action points per that turn, and then you can have your entire team just attack you, and the target that's gotten hit by Shackles of Pain will take all of that damage. Kind of a weird combination, but it works. Mosquito Swarm is also pretty good too because this will make it so that you can heal yourself if you're in a pinch. It's going to be obviously an intelligence-based spell, but giving yourself a pinch heal is kind of nice. Although you can swap out and use something like Death Wish for an increased amount of damage bonus, which is really nice. And there's other things like the Bone Cage, which also work decently well here, but I found that these 3 worked good. And even Infect, which will make the target so they get disease, which is pretty effective, or Decaying Touch so they can't get healing spells. But I found that Mosquito Swarm was actually a pretty solid option. These 2 are good too, but I like this one. I also have Cloak and Dagger here for the 1 action point teleportation without breaking sneaking. Can be useful in certain situations. And as mentioned, there can be arrow third skills. If you're using arrow, use Uncanny Evasion. And then things like the Nether Swap to swap places or teleportation to swap someone else would be the 2 best skills. I went Hydrosophist for this build because we got a bit of survivability. So with that, Healing Ritual is really nice to restore 102 vitality and will go to all nearby allies. Then we also have Vitality, a Restoration for 1 action point, curing 95 health and getting rid of bleed or poison, which is nice. And then Armor of Frost, giving ourselves a pretty decent amount of magic armor and can get rid of those following abilities. This is great as a kind of a support damage type class because we can do it all here with some critical hits, some healing, and some necromancy. I also got the innate skills, obviously, of Petrifying Touch and Blinding Squall, which work better on magical builds, which we'll be posting here soon. And then from gear, I have Bloodsucker and the Shields Up. And with this gear, I got 500 health here, 400 shields, and 251 magical shields. For gear, we're going to be prioritizing, like I have strength on this, but that's just so I can use other strength-based gear. If you have something that you want to use that's 12 strength and you don't have it, use Calm Mind, or Calm Mind to give yourself that boost to your stats from the Pyro skills, and then equip it. And if it has a +3 to strength or +2, it's going to allow you to keep it equipped. But we're looking for Warfare on all of our skills. Warfare and Necromancer. I got really lucky there with a few Warfare points. This is more Scoundrel, not super necessary, but 2 Warfare, and this one is 2 Necromancer. And then everything else, dual wielding is not ideal. One hand would be probably definitely the preferred option. These boots here gave us the Bloodsucker ability. I have a dagger, and I would always want to have silence on it so that we can go up and stop spellcasters. That's kind of ideal. And then this one also has lifesteal and all of them can backstab. But for our shield, ideally we're going to have one that reflects 40% of melee damage as physical damage. This can be really good for helping break down shields as well. And it makes the enemies less likely to end up attacking you. But yeah, we don't have the highest crit chance, but that's okay because we got automatic critical hits when we do backstabs. So that's something we don't got to worry about. Decent accuracy, and then our overall damage output is pretty nice. It's not super high here, but we got our shield throw for a lot of it, and then we have a bunch of other utility abilities and heals. And as far as combat goes, we got a lot of options because if someone needs magic armor, we can replenish that using this ability here and save them. We also got our special skills here, which aren't like fantastic, but the Petrifying Touch can be okay at options. Turning a target into stone, which is resisted by magical armor, but we got shields up here, which is going to give us some extra defense. Look out if teammates need heals, like if they're close to death. Sometimes it's nice to be able to keep them out of that. But we have that 1 action point worth of movement, which is really nice because you can see there with the Scoundrel, it's actually quite a bit of movement. We also got some more movement, things like the Battle Stomp and the Battering Ram here. But even better, we also have the Backlash. Again, 1 action point to get ourselves in a critical hit position is really nice. And then you can follow that up with another attack here, which is going to do pretty good amounts of damage and another backstab critical off of the Battle Stomp there. So that's great. We knocked him prone. So we still have another action point. I like Rupture Tendons or the Sawtooth Knife, which will make him bleed here. So that's just going to further do a bunch of damage. 110, got the backstab critical off. And yeah, he's in pretty rough shape. And the best part is once you get their physical armor off, you can just keep spamming those warfare skills to keep knocking them prone. And yeah, you'll be able to easily take out targets just that way. Rupture Tendons is good too, because if they end up moving around, they're going to take massive amounts of damage. And then if we have 1 action point remaining, we can use like things like Armor of Frost or the Restoration there. If there's a target that needs anything here, like restoring their shields or restoring their health, you can go ahead with protecting them that way. And that bleed was enough to finish them off there. So yeah, that's a build for Beast using daggers, shields, healing, necromancy, and scoundrel skills alongside obviously warfare. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Hit the subscribe button below. I'll be doing some magic builds for everyone in the party now. So let me know what you'd like to see next for Divinity Original Sin 2. Hit the subscribe button below if you enjoyed, and we'll catch y'all in the next one.